All right, and we're live. Hi, everyone. This is JD Bryden with the Conservative Union, the Party of Choice, and the Free Radical Network for another interview in our conservative candidate interview series. We're here trying to get the voters, the primary voters, a better, some more knowledge, some more information, some more access to the primary candidates in these very important elections this year in 2014. Trying to take back the Senate. We've had some issues with some candidates. I won't go into that in the past that weren't properly vetted. We'll say that have run in elections. Let's say in the 2012 season. We're trying to get around that and get some more information out to the voters. This interview, we will have Rich Pezzullo here from New Jersey, conservative candidate running for U.S. Senate, Republican primary candidate from the state of New Jersey, to in a three candidate race right now in the New Jersey primary. That's correct.
I'm in the New Jersey primary for U.S. Senate. I'm one of the Republican candidates. That's true, JD.
Awesome.
Put this together. This is so high tech.
Yeah, really. No, I mean this is the way that we're getting information. We are a grassroots organization. We're trying to get information about candidates to the voters, to the people who are actually going to be voting in these primary elections. So to get that started, let's hear a little bit more about you. Let's hear why you are running for Senate in the state of New Jersey.
Well, you have to know a little bit about my background to understand that. There's people who watch things happen, people who make things happen, and people who say, what happened? I'm one of the people who makes things happen. As a young person, when I went to Cornell after spending years on an ambulance corps in high school, I realized that there was no ambulance corps at Cornell. We needed a contract service. So I started an ambulance corps, rescue squad at Cornell. Throughout my business career, I've always been looking for initiatives to bring solutions to people. When I served in the Army, I served 20 years in the Army Reserve. I was a major in the U.S. Army. My job was to find ways to use computers to solve problems all over the military. And so basically what I do is I use existing equipment, existing means and procedures to solve complex business problems. And those are the types of things that are facing the people in New Jersey and the country today. And when there was no one stepping forward that had the credentials and the capability and the skill set to run for the race, once again, as someone who's been a volunteer ambulance corpsman, been a volunteer scout leader, been a leader with the 4-H, been a leader in the church, it was time to just step up and do the hard job of presenting myself to the voters and letting them decide if I should be the candidate that takes on Cory Booker this fall.
Awesome. So in the state of New Jersey, we have a lot of stuff that's going on. We've got a lot of issues that are important. What do you personally think are the most important issues this election cycle?
Jobs. The trouble that people are having expanding their businesses, maintaining enough hours to keep their part-timers in their homes and in their jobs, and finding opportunities for people who are out looking for jobs. The biggest issue we have is making it easier and more attractive for businesses to locate here, for businesses to expand here, and for young people to invent and create businesses and choose to put them here.
Absolutely. Certainly something that I've seen just in my personal life. Why should we pick you over your competitors?
Well, you need a certain number of skills to be effective as a senator. And basically, in my background, by working in the computer business with business owners, I work in every business you can imagine. I work in the healthcare industry, where I'm with the lady behind the window that scans your insurance card, and I'm with the practice owner who's trying to figure out how to maintain her benefits and also deal with all the regulations. And the lady at that front desk who's dealing with the HIPAA requirements and constantly looking over her shoulder to make sure that she isn't breaking some federal law by letting somebody peek at her screen. I work in construction businesses where we're doing multiple iterations of filings to FEMA, trying to work through that bureaucracy to bring the money down that's already been approved to start rebuilding the state. I work with accountants who are frustrated with their inability to keep software up to date because of constantly changing regulations and the demands being placed on all the small businesses for compliance. I work with nonprofits who are trying to bring money down from grants that have already been approved but can't navigate through the bureaucracies and the requirements that are being placed upon them for compliance and reporting. And what I've discovered in working at the ground level and also in the executive suites in so many different types of businesses is that working people have realized that the federal government has arrived in their life. And regardless of the industry, they all have a story to tell about where there's federal regulations and federal laws that's making it harder for them to do their job. So the first thing that I have is I don't need a lobbyist to explain to me what's going on in a wide variety of businesses. So I bring to the floor of the Senate immediately first-hand knowledge of the impact of regulations on working people and on business owners without having to read it in a book, without having to get it from a lobbyist. One of the problems with our legislators is that they get most of their information from paid sources. They don't really have access to a lot of first-hand information. So if you take my first-hand experience that I have, that's an important qualification to have. Then you look at 20 years of military experience. Through that, I have developed the ability to work within protocols and stand up for my issues without being disrespectful, and to just stand firm on my mission and look out for my people and look out for the objectives and the job that I'm sent to Washington, D.C. to do. And unless you have had it as part of your responsibility, as your job every day, to stand up for your mission, you really don't get that into your fiber of your being. And lastly, the other piece that I have is a tremendous amount of experience just working with people inside the state of New Jersey. And a lot of experience working on issues. I was working with Sam Pirelli 20 years ago as we were fighting tax increases back then as part of the United Taxpayers of New Jersey. I've worked with the New Jersey Right to Life, and I've been active in their ministries, and I've been active in bringing youth groups down to Washington, D.C. for the Right to Life. I've been a speaker at the State House. So I've been living my pro-life values. I've been active with Second Amendment defenders, trying to make sure that legislators take an interest in protecting the rights of people, every right that's spelled out in the Constitution, and being active with all those groups as well. And as far as standing up for a strong defense, being active with the military and always looking out for the benefits of the veterans and also troops that I was responsible for, that's built into my experience too. So by living your values, you bring that to the Senate, the ability to work within the organization of the Senate, to be able to go up to John McCain, eyeball to eyeball, man to man, officer to officer, Republican to Republican, and say, John, let's work together. Because what we really have to do is we have to send to the Senate someone who can bring together all the senators on the Republican team. It doesn't make sense to have a Republican majority if we can't unite that majority around the simple goals of getting the country back to obeying the Constitution. If we can't unite the Senate and get them voting together towards those ends, then we're not going to be able to have an effective Senate and solve the problems that we have to get solved.
Awesome. You know, that's one of the things. I actually got the opportunity to see you at the Union County Convention where you won the ballot line, and you gave a really a speech that the room was on their feet. They were very, very interested in what you had to say. That is to a very conservative base.
Yes.
How are you going to transition your campaign to talk to the independent or the apolitical voter that you'll have to win in order to beat Cory Booker in November?
Well, the independent is finally coming to realize that what other people consider compromise means giving up more of their rights, more of their money, more of their jobs, more of their freedom. Let's take teachers, for example. Teachers for years have always lined up behind the idea that they need to be protected with their benefits, their salaries need to be protected, and they've always tended to vote for the party that stood in lockstep with the union. And yet, what they're realizing now is teachers are being turned into factory workers. With Common Core coming down the pike, they're being told not only what to teach, which is bad enough, but how to teach, being given scripts. And they're coming to the realization that they need a fighter, they need a champion on their side, and that compromise only means deciding how much more you're going to want to lose. And they're starting to come to the message that you need someone that will stand up for the values that they're expressing. Independents are not going to rally behind someone who is flexible on their positions and willing to waver. They don't want to empower that person and send him to Washington because they have no idea what they're going to get from him when he presents himself to the floor of the Senate. What is happening among independent voters, particularly the ones that I talk to, they understand that there is someone out here that is as committed to their cause as he is to winning the election and standing firm to it. So what the independents are looking for is someone they can trust, someone who will stand by the convictions that they stand behind, which basically involve empowering teachers, empowering workers, empowering people to take control over their lives, and getting the government out of the way of their right to negotiate, their right to make the best living for themselves, the right for their business to expand so that they can employ their brothers and their children. That's what independents are looking for, and that's what going for someone who's been consistent through his whole life offers to them.
Very good answer. This next question is one that I think that you'll find interesting. What does conservatism mean to you?
Conservatism means learning from experience, using logical, fact-based analysis for making decisions in looking towards the future, not burying your head in the sand, being able to say no to the second ice cream cone, and being able to say, we really can't afford that. Most of the rules the conservatives insist that we follow. If you make a mess, you clean it up. Don't spend what you can't afford. Don't put your bills onto your children. Most of those rules have been with us for thousands of years. Most of the newer rules that have given us such terrible debt, a massive increase in entitlements, a sense of dependency, most of those are experiments that are less than 100 years old. And if you can look at the quantitative data that demonstrates that some of these experiments aren't working and need to be either changed or abandoned, then you're not really being a true conservative. So being a conservative means being able to accept facts for what they are, determine what's working and do more of it, determine what's not working and stop doing it.
Awesome. The thing about that is that it's great to me. I'm a conservative person already.
Okay.
How do you sell that message of responsibility fiscally to an independent or to an apolitical voter? That is something that I really think is important in a candidate. I would love it if I could get you to sell me an issue as if I were an independent or a apolitical voter. How would you talk to me and tell me, hey, we need to get this in line?
Okay, let's say you're a teacher. I ask you to tell me the truth. What would make you a better teacher and a happier teacher? More money in your paycheck or more freedom to do your job? And in many cases, I'll get the answer, well, more freedom. Well, let's talk about what would get you more freedom. And if you're apolitical, then you're not really paying attention to anything that's going on. So first of all, I need to get you engaged in the thought that life is not turning out the way you expected and that it is harder for you to make a living. You are concerned that your children will not be able to live in the same state as you do. And you are getting the sense that it's not going to be better for your kids. And once you realize that that is going on, then you'll open your mind to the thought that something really has to change. If you continue to support the practices that you've seen all around for the past 6 years, then you're going to get more of the same. If you'd like to see a change, you have to make a change. And that's the fundamental philosophy that I bring to independents who've been voting Democrat, people who've been choosing not to vote, is that if you want to change your life, you have to change your life. And then you can actually offer them a positive message that says, let's run our nation and our state the way we'd like to see it run, the way we learned growing up, and that is to be responsible. If you make a mess, clean it up. Don't buy stuff you can't afford. Don't spoil people who depend on you, because then they'll never be able to depend on themselves. These are lessons that you need to learn as you're growing up, and if you're disconnected from them, you can start to look around and say, hey, this isn't working. And once you acknowledge that it isn't working, your mind will be open for another solution, another alternative, a chance to take a look at some other solutions. You may not choose them, but the first thing we need to do is to invite people to the conversation and ask them to express freely whether they think they're getting everything they should out of life or if they should be getting more out of life. Now, notice I didn't say are you getting as much from the government as you can, but are you getting as much out of life? Because the government removes things from life. They take things from you when you produce, and they give them to others. And if you want to get more from your life, you need to be allowed to keep what you produce in your life.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. And as a believer in the conservative ideology, it's troubled me that we've done a lot of losing recently. So that's my next question. Why, given how clearly we feel about conservatism, how you think about conservatism, why is it that the GOP keeps losing?
The GOP tends to run candidates that can't really be trusted to do anything in particular. They will be wishy-washy and will not commit to a certain set of positions. If you look at the candidates that are successful, they're people that speak unequivocally about what they're going to do when they're elected. And they make that case to the people, and then they do win. In New Jersey, we haven't elected too many people like that. But look what our governor did. Our governor said, I'm going to balance the budget. I'm going to be responsible. I am going to do what's best for New Jersey. When he was presented with scores of suggestions for ways to balance the budget when he first came into office, he didn't pick sacred cows. He put just about every one of them into effect. And he did what he set out to do. And that's why people supported him. Elected officials that commit to a course of action, that promise people that they're going to act a certain way, believe a certain way, and do certain things, then the people will come behind them and support them. If you're not willing to do that, people are not going to turn out to vote for you. And candidates that lose have no one but themselves to blame if that's the case.
That is a good answer. Enough about how we lose.
Okay.
It's a depressing subject. How do we win? More specifically, how do you go to, say, non-traditional groups, non-traditionally Republican groups, I should say? You already mentioned the teachers. Let's go a little bit further. How do you get college students? How do you get the youth vote? How do you, get into minority communities? What are you doing to make sure that you are maximizing your presence out there?
Oh, that's a lot of different questions. To get the youth vote, you really need to have a presence. So by establishing a presence on campuses throughout the state, we have the opportunity to get young people who are already conservatives to share their thoughts and give them some opportunity to do so by associating with a U.S. Senate candidate who can lend some credibility to their beliefs. Young people who are conservatives have a challenge in getting their message out, because they have to get through the clutter of decades of indoctrination among their peers. But if they stay with their message and don't resort to fighting and name-calling, but just ask their friends who are at college to learn to just look around, then we work through the students on the campuses to get pockets of conservative thinking and wait for that message to grow and help that message grow. That's how we get the college students. The non-college students, working class, you get to them by actively working with their employers and also being a presence inside their places of business. And I'm working through a number of different professional organizations in all types of businesses to bring the message out that government spinning out of control is causing them to have their hours cut, causing them to lose their jobs, causing them to see their deductibles skyrocket, causing different plans that they thought had to stop working. and basically allowing them to realize that things are not going to get better unless they make a change. And people are clamoring for a change. They're screaming for a change. And this election will give them an opportunity to do that and vote for a change because they are unhappy. Inside the urban communities, we need to further the urban outreach that we've already started in cities like Camden and Trenton, and move it into Newark and out into the other urban centers around the state, where we make it clear that before you can do anything about growing businesses and improving the quality of life, the first thing you have to do is get a handle on crime. And you need to empower the elected officials and the police departments to have the tools that they need to enforce the laws and make sure they're going to get backup from the Justice Department when they catch criminals. I'm astonished when I see that the federal gun laws are not enforced that are already in the books, and we have a catch and release program. We need to have an urban agenda that focuses on reducing crime in the streets, reducing crime in the homes, and reducing crime in and around the schools. And an urban agenda that focuses on that will help the urban areas create their own success and their own development. Then as you move into the different communities around the state, the message stays pretty much the same. If you could just work without the federal regulations that prevent you from starting your movements and starting your businesses, then your organization will have an opportunity to grow. And that's the message that we're bringing. It translates well into every other language, into every other culture. People have a fundamental right to rise to the greatest level to which they could achieve, and the federal government from Washington, D.C. has no business keeping them down.
Absolutely. Another demographic that we have had a little bit of trouble with recently is the female vote. We've been viciously smeared with this war on women farce, but it's also been bolstered by candidates like Todd Akin or Richard Murdoch flubbing questions on abortion in the case of rape. How would you approach that topic when it comes up?
I think women represent a much broader issue than just abortion, and the first objective that we have to do is to get the media to focus on the success of women and the interests of women and the whole of the women's movement, to make sure that they understand that, once again, being able to develop to your fullest potential is the most fundamental conservative value that there is, and that, in fact, the Republicans are the party of women. We're the party that bolsters and supports and heralds the success of women. We encourage women to rise to the highest level inside their corporate structures. We encourage women to build their businesses, own their businesses, and become successful and hire more people and bring economic activity out to the rest of the country. That is the role of women in society, is to take their gift, to lead and to organize, if that is their gift, and to build their businesses. Every person has their own gift, their own talent, and they have their right to use it, and they should be allowed to use it to the best of their ability. And the federal government should not be active in stopping their rise and stopping their advancement. What we need to do is continue to trumpet and salute the results and the successes of remarkable Republican women. And we do that by sharing their stories. We share the stories of their successes, and we encourage them to stay involved and be more successful in everything that they do.
I think that addresses how you try and repair the relationship between the Republican Party and the female vote, but more specifically on that topic of rape in the case of abortion in the case of rape. That's something that we've seen come up in debates and interviews and all sorts of things. I know I personally think that Steve Lonegan gave a pretty good response, a rebuke, in fact, to Cory Booker during the debate in October. On that question in particular, how do you answer that? How do you answer that when that gets directly asked to you?
There's a lot of questions and what ifs that people have been bringing about abortion. And one of the most interesting turns of that was someone said if gay people are born that way and there's a genetic test for that, then if a child could be tested and he's gay, should a parent be allowed to abort a child just because it's gay? Should a parent be allowed to abort a child just because it's gay? And if you follow with me on the thought process as you try and answer that question, you come to the conclusion that an abortion, any abortion, is a violent assault on an innocent human being. And once two people come to agreement on the fact that an abortion is a violent assault on an innocent human being, then every question about abortion answers itself.
That is a very, very solid answer that I'm happy to hear. Let's move on from those difficult topics. Let's go to something that I think is going to be a huge issue. We're talking about, you're running against Cory Booker. That's who you want to be running against in November. He is the Twitter candidate. He is the social media guy. How important do you think the use of social media is in political campaigns?
It's turning into a remarkable tool for being in contact with people with whom you want to share a message. When you're not delivering on getting people to the polls, however, when you tweeted to your 200,000 or your 2.2 million followers, come out to the polls, and they did that, and you didn't deliver for them, there's still no jobs for them when they graduate college. They're still losing their hours, and they're losing their health care plans. When the people that you tweeted and relied upon go out, did what you asked them to do, and voted for you, it's unlikely that when you go back to them again and ask them to vote for you again, that they're going to do so eagerly. And that's what the Twitter revolution is going to be delivering to Mr. Booker this year, is the fact that he encouraged people to go out and vote for him, and they did. And yet, when they turned up at the polls and voted for him, nothing changed. That's because Cory Booker is nothing more than a rubber stamp for every failed liberal policy, every little experiment that has been hatched on the American people, where New Jersey has been turned into the feeding trough for every feel-good politician who wants to solve the problems of the world. And as that rubber stamp, when Mr. Booker sends his tweet out saying, let's go get more of the same, we'll have our followers there to say, no, we don't want more of the same. We want change. And there's more people coming to Twitter that would like to see change than would like to be told, just vote for the current guys because we like them.
Awesome. That's a compelling statement about the importance of Twitter. What social media networks are you on? What are you guys? What is your campaign? What is Pezzullo for U.S. Senate? What are you guys doing?
The Google message, the Pezzullo message. We're out here on Google in a Hangout. We're also regular posters on Facebook on Pezzullo for Senate. You can get me on Twitter at Pezzullo Senate. You can get me on Instagram, Pezzullo Senate. So there's a number of places where you can find campaign photos. We're also out on YouTube, where there's videos of appearances that I've made, so you can hear longer explanations of a number of the positions that I've had. And what you'll also see is that I remain consistent across all the rooms that I talk to. When I walk into a union room, I have exactly the same message, regardless of the trade to which I'm talking, or if I'm talking to business owners or labor. The story is exactly the same. If the business can't grow, if we can't create more jobs, if we can't generate growth, there's nothing left to negotiate. And everybody is coming to that message. There's no need to change that message. There's no need to pander. What people have come to understand is businesses are not growing. What we've been trying to do with more taxation and more regulation in the name of protecting people is doing little more than crushing the will to build a business, the ability to build a business, and the ability of people to feed their families, do their jobs, and live their lives. And by watching me in different settings and understanding the message stays the same will allow people, regardless of their political persuasion, to understand this guy really believes what he is trying to get accomplished has a way to compel the Senate through personal testimony, interpersonal relationships, and leadership on the floor of the Senate to unite the Senate. When they see that coming out time after time, that's the way they're going to understand that this Republican is the Republican for New Jersey to send to bring New Jersey methods and New Jersey thinking to the United States Senate and start getting the problem solved.
Awesome. One final note on the social media thing. How often is it you behind? I mean, we have, it's a big deal. You have a lot of moving parts in the campaign. How often are you the one behind the screen?
Frequently. Most of the time, unless I send a text to somebody asking them to tweet something for me. It's
awesome.
It's a very important role that I think you need to hear the candidate's voice when you're out there tweeting. Not to say that we don't have a lot of discussion about what our message should be, and that I have a lot of friends trying to keep me on track. And if I start to get off message, I'm blessed with a family that keeps me consistent, with friends that keep me consistent, and there's no friends like old friends. So people that can remind you what you were standing up for 20 years ago and keep you consistent in that thinking and in that message. That's very useful friends to have.
Awesome. All right, we have one more real big question, then we can move on to some personal stuff. The topic of 2014 is Obamacare. I think we can agree on that.
Okay.
How you fight it will be a determining factor in whether you win or lose. However, wanting to repeal it without offering an alternative, you get into some sketchy territory with a lot of people freaking out about, now that Obamacare is gone, what's going to happen? Am I going to lose my coverage again for a second time in a span of a few years? What is your plan? Do you have a plan that you subscribe to replace Obamacare? What is your goal there?
Well, Obamacare is a small word for a very big topic, and the selection of your carrier is a very small piece of it. The dozens of federal agencies and boards and controls and limitations that are being placed on doctors' offices, the regulatory bureaucracy that spawned from it, that can't be fixed. It needs to be either removed or embraced. I refuse to embrace it. I don't think our society will be well served if society is compelled to embrace it. So first and foremost, there is no fixing of Obamacare. When you look at what really happened, Obamacare provided you a portal through which you were able to purchase your insurance into an artificially controlled marketplace. Getting rid of Obamacare completely will allow the marketplace to come back into force. You keep regulations in place that would make sense that we could get done with smaller legislation. For instance, the prohibition against discrimination on the basis of pre-existing conditions. That makes a tremendous amount of sense for fairness. The individual mandate, however, where people are compelled and companies are compelled, that needs to go. The definition at the federal level for what an insurance policy should be, the definition of it, that should change. I don't think that any 545 people, which is the Congress plus the Senate plus the Supreme Court and the President, I don't think that few people really have the intellect, the resources, the managerial capability to come up with a solution of a system that can service 300 million people. Anybody that tells you that we can replace this plan to control 300 million people with a better plan to control 300 million people is either delusional or lying. I don't plan on doing either of those. The way the optimal method of matching buyers of insurance coverage and buyers of medical services with providers of insurance and providers of medical services has been and will continue to be the free marketplace, controlled and regulated at the state level, where the organizations best in position to control something are the ones closest to the problem. If your insurance regulations are not working at the state level, at least you're close enough to the state government to effect a change. If the local zoning and the local regulations on the placement of medical facilities in your local community isn't appropriate, your local zoning board should be the ones that are empowered to take care of this. You should only empower the government closest to the problem to deal with the problem. And the way that happens is not through a top-down, command-ordered environment. That has to start from the bottom up, where the consumers manage their own local governments, manage their relationships. So what do we replace Obamacare with? Obamacare goes away. What remains, however, is a very vibrant insurance industry and practitioners who would be delighted to be able to once again get in mutually beneficial relationships with their insurance carriers and continue to provide the good services that they want to provide. That's what we replace Obamacare with. Good, old-fashioned, American, high-quality service from people who would like to be free to do exactly that.
That is, again, a very, it's speaks to conservatism at its root, at its base. The concept of free market economics. But now I think we should shift a little bit, because this has been a lot of content. This has been a lot of, important issues, important debates, important topics. But it's easy to lose the person behind those topics. So, Rich, we need to remind people that you are a person too. Politicians, as weird as it may seem, are actually people. So if you could please answer me this. What kind of music is on your iPod? What do you listen to? And who's your favorite artist?
Oh gosh,
hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, Mindy Abar probably as a jazz musician would probably be who's on most frequently. I have a channel on my Pandora called Jim Croce, and the channel that I listen to most frequently, if you have Pandora, try this one. Make one around the song Just Fishing. And what you'll hear is songs that talk about parents who love their children, who care about seeing them grow up strong, who are very concerned about always setting the best example for their kids. And there's a tremendous amount of music that's out in the marketplace that speaks to this, and that's probably one of my favorite channels. Just make a Just Fishing channel on your Pandora. I think you'll like it.
All right. There are a lot of beautiful concert venues in the state of New Jersey, and New York is just a short way away. What was the last concert that you went to?
Last concert I went to was the Moody Blues in Madison Square Garden. That would have to be the last concert I went to. I've been to a number of band playings, rock groupings at local establishments that where hard rock bands get together among teenagers, because having had teenagers, you need to keep yourself exposed to that, particularly if you're the driver. And I always found it more interesting to go inside the clubs and see who's really taken the trouble to go out and learn how to play their music and develop their art and go out there and take the risk that nobody's going to clap at the end of the song. And I'm delighted to see that in New Jersey there are scores, if not hundreds, of young bands playing in little venues all over, and that people are actually going out to listen to them. I think that speaks a lot for the development of culture inside the state, and it means that kids still have exciting, interesting things to try and do and develop.
What is your proudest accomplishment as a small business owner?
My proudest accomplishment as a small business owner, I developed a protocol whereby I could, this gets a little techie, but by analyzing metadata of standardized tests for schools, we're able to look inside classrooms and identify which teachers are producing growth among all the kids in their classroom. We can control out for rooms that just have all smart kids, but we can find teachers that are just teaching to the smart kids. We have teachers that are ignoring the smart kids and trying to bring up the underperformers, and we can find teachers that are doing a great job of bringing everybody up closer to what's called the just proficient mean, or continually getting their kids to improve their performance over the prior years. And being able to spot pockets of excellence and developing tools that allow people to do that, that gives me a tremendous amount of pleasure and pride. But probably on a day-to-day basis, being in the IT industry, when somebody calls and they've lost their data. And suddenly their whole business is at a standstill, and they need help. Being able to get technicians to the site and resolve the problem, get a business back up and running, it brings back the same sense of accomplishment that I used to feel when I rode on the ambulance. When you finally ease the pain and the mother of the injured child is now calmer. That's the sense that you get. And in the information business, in the computer business, you have an opportunity to make a lot of pain go away, make people feel better, and you have the sense of pride that comes with watching something run better and smoother after you're finished than when you started. And I'm glad I'm in an industry that allows me to do that.
Awesome. I've got two more for you. New Jersey has a few choices for sports teams. What sports teams do you root for?
That's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. I've been a Yankees fan for years. I guess I inherit that from my sons. And probably that's the extent of the sports that I watch. Is I watch baseball with my boys and try and get them to a game once in a while.
Awesome. That is fair enough. Finally, what is your favorite New Jersey diner? This is a very important political question because, as you know, diners are important here in the state of New Jersey.
Probably the Manalapan Diner right up here on Route 9 near my house comes to mind as one of my favorites. Actually, White Manna and Hackensack. I don't know if that counts as a diner or not, but I have to say, as a place you definitely want to get to, it has to be the either Manalapan Diner here on Route 9, or if you go up to Hackensack, go try the White Manna. It's on Main Street in Hackensack.
Awesome. Rich, I have to thank you very, very much for being here. Please remind everybody your website, your Twitter handle, all of your social media stuff.
Sure. www.pezzullo4senate.com. That's Pezzullo4 Senate.com. On Facebook, if you just look for Rich Pezzullo for U.S. Senate, you'll find me there. And my Twitter handle is @Pezzullo Senate.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here, for your service, and for trying to run in a state that people are scared. Oh no, we haven't had a Republican senator in a long time. Well, I think we've got a really good race, a really good group of people this year to see if we can challenge Cory Booker.
Well, this is the year. You raise an interesting point, because this is the year to get involved, particularly with the primary. Because if you are running a municipal organization, this is the year you want to try your ground game on primary day. You don't want to wait until election day for the big game to find out if you have weak spots in your lineup. If you have a chance for a scrimmage, particularly this tremendous primary, then you really should get involved. And what the people working on my campaign are discovering is that politics is fun. It is like sports, because you get behind your guy, you fight for your guy, you work for your guy, you enjoy his wins, you feel sorry for his losses, but you stay behind him. And we're out here each and every day, and the people that are involved in my campaign are having an exciting time. They're out here bringing the conservative message, and they're actually enjoying seeing other people come to the cause. So I invite everybody, please, find the guy you like, get behind the campaign, and get involved, because it's a great way to enjoy this campaign season.
Absolutely. I could not have said it better myself. Again, thank you so much, Mr. Rich Pezzullo, running for Senate here in the state of New Jersey. Man, I'm really excited about this primary. I'm really excited about the election. I think we have a shot at beating Cory Booker. I want to thank everybody for watching. I'm J.D. Bryden of the Conservative Union, the Free Radical Network, and the Party of Choice, and I hope you are a little bit more informed about the state of the race here in New Jersey in 2014 for Senate. And I hope you come back and view many more interviews from Senate candidates all across the country. So for the Free Radical Network, the Party of Choice, and the Conservative Union, have a great day.